Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the virtual launch of I Am Her, Fierce, Fearless, and Focus. I am truly honored that you have chosen the time to spend your afternoon with us as we celebrate more than just the book. We celebrate identity, we celebrate courage, we celebrate healing, leadership, and legacy. My name is Dr. Jocelyn McDonald, but known as Dr. Mac. I am the visionary author of I Am Her and the publishing director of Mac Media and Publishing, which is a boutique publishing company committed to amplifying voices that shift culture long after the pages are turned. At Mac, we believe stories are sacred and they are simply just written, lived, and that the women the courage to share their lived experiences, something powerful happens. Walls fall, we have chains that break, healing begins. And so I Am Her was really born from a defining moment, the moment when a woman stopped shrinking, stopped apologizing, and boldly declares, I am her. This afternoon is not just a launch, it's a declaration, it's a mirror, invitation to you all. But before we move forward and bring on our authors, I want to definitely take a moment to take a pause and express my deepest gratitude to Dr. Latanya Goffney for lending her powerful voice to the forward of I Am Her. Though she is not able to join us this afternoon, her words anchor this book in wisdom, authority, and authenticity. But Dr. Goffney, thank you for believing in this vision and for pouring into this collective of women. And so, without further ado, I'd like to bring up our first round of authors to the stage. And so we're going to have Dr. Adriana Butler. We have Cherie Powell Simmons and Dr. Valerie Harris. Welcome to the I Am Her launch. I'm super excited. I'm just going to introduce the ladies here, then ask them a few questions and really share and pour their hearts out. And so we're going to start with you, Dr. Adriana. No, Dr. Adriana is a transformational leader. She's a minister, the CEO of Evisions Operations. She empowers women to move forward with courage, with faith, and with clarity. And so, Dr. Adriana, if you can just share with us what inspired you to share your story in I Am Her, and how has your journey shaped the person you are today?
Well, thank you, Dr. Mack, first of all, for this opportunity. This has just been a blessing, I would say, in disguise, an opportunity, a platform to be able to share a story that I hope will bless women near and far. So, as I reflected on my journey from where I was in life into where I am, I realized that my life had been grace every step of the way. Sometimes we forget about the grace that's on our life. I'm sharing my story because too many women think strength comes from a perfect path, but mine didn't. God has blessed me tremendously, but those things were forged through transitions, responsibility, pressure, and seasons where I had to believe when I couldn't see. There were battles, and I had to stay obedient when it would have been easier to just quit. But I learned not to chase titles, but to steward assignments. And that confidence isn't loud, but it's obedient. And I also was reminded over my life, God has kept his promises, even when the timing didn't line up with what I expected. So I want women to understand you're not fearless because you're strong. You're fearless because you choose to trust God anyway. That he will carry you into your purpose. So I hope as you read my chapter, you'll be able to see yourself in the writing that I shared.
Oh, thank you for that. And what is one lesson from your chapter that you hope will empower readers to embrace their inner truth?
Yeah. So the lesson I hope that you all embrace and carry is that stop postponing things, waiting for permission. Too many of us are negotiating with what God already told us to do. You're waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel qualified, waiting for fear to leave. But purpose doesn't wait on comfort, it responds to movement. The moment you move, grace will meet you there. And you realize you were never underqualified, but you were under obedient.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And so we're going to move on to Cherie. Cherie is a resilient leader and mentor who journey is just reflective of perseverance, growth, and the power of turning adversity into strength. And so, Cherie, if you can, how has overcoming challenges in your personal or professional life really influenced the story of I Am Her?
Well, I would definitely say that I had to learn how to stop feeling God-sized whole with what I had lined up for myself. Um, in other words, the human achievements, the goals that I've reached and attained, the degrees, certifications, and things like that. Um, I kind of intermingled that with my calling, my ministry, and that was to serve others. And so it felt like a piece was missing, torn away from me about 8 months ago when I lost what I thought was my, you know, career of all careers, and had to just really start over and learn that, I'm not, what I do. I'm who I am, and I'm who God called me to be. And in that, that was traumatic for me. And I was definitely reminded that all the messy parts, all the things that happened in life, I knew that it was not for me. I knew that it was for me to gain strength from, become more resilient, and then to be able to turn that around and testify to what God has done and how far he has brought me. So I'm thankful for that. And just trying to break that cycle of control, trying to encourage other women who read our chapters, and see themselves, like Dr. Nita says, see themselves in our stories and know that they're not the only one, that knowing that those painful messes, you know, has turned into our ministry and what we do, and, just being able to be a blessing to others. So,
I love that. And what advice would you give readers who want to face fear head on and stay focused on what truly matters?
just be able to see that where God has you now, it's a divine setup. He does everything for a reason. We have our perfect plan, and how we want things lined up and how we want things to be and turn out for ourselves. And we put our best foot forward, many of us. And what we have to realize and understand is that when we say that we're trusting God, you're trusting God at His word. You're trusting God in His timing. And so that's a lesson that I've had to learn recently, and so my advice is just knowing that it's a divine setup by God. And, sometimes He has to remove the good to get you to the great. So just keep that in mind.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And now I want to introduce Dr. Valerie Harris. I call her Dr. Val. Dr. Val is an empowerment coach, author, and CEO of Stepping Out with Purpose. She inspires women to dream boldly, lead courageously, and pursue purpose with faith. And so, Dr. Val, what inspired you to take part in this project, and how does your chapter reflect your personal transformation?
Well, I was inspired to take part in I Am Her because I am that woman. I'm that woman who has been shaken by rejection, loss, delay, and doubt, but not destroyed because of it. But in all, this collaboration represents identity for me. And my chapter reflects the journey of learning who I was beyond titles or being approved or having approval or expectations. And for years, what I did, I embodied strength on the other side of my outside ward. You on the outside, you thought I had all this strength, but on the inside, I was wrestling with self doubt internally, like a lot of women do. You're looking pretty on the outside, but on the inside, you're having all kind of turmoil going on. And losing my mother at the age of 19 and facing false accusations as a teenager, navigating seasons where I felt unseen, those moments could have really defined me if I had allowed it to. But instead, they developed me. And my transformation happened when I stopped measuring my worth by what I lost and started anchoring in who God says I am. And I shifted from approval seeking to assignment, driving and being able to be in control of who I was and not allowing those setbacks to define who I was. And then as I began to launch my businesses, being able to go live for the first time, choosing forgiveness over bitterness. And those were just some career moves that helped me to identify with the various decisions that I was making in my life. And during this chapter, it was part of a testimony for me. And I felt that through the breaking and all the things that were going on, I was built up on the inside because it helped improve who I was as a person. And that shaking didn't disqualify me, it prepared me to rise higher, feeling unshaken and feeling unstoppable and feeling like that I don't have to apologize for who I am in Christ Jesus. And yes, I am that fierce, fearless, focused person now. And I have to work on it daily because it's not something that you don't have to work on. You have to work on being focused each and every day, and you have to make sure that you're in line with the things that God has called you to do for a time such as this.
And how do you hope your story will motivate readers to embrace courage and really focus on their own lives?
Well, I hope my story gives women the permission to move, even when they don't feel ready. Because if you think you're going to be ready, you will not move and you will not make a decision. You have to step out. Because so many women are gifted, but they're circling. They're waiting for clarity. They're waiting for confidence and confirmation from other people. We have to stop doing that. And I want women that are listening, stop waiting on other people to help you make a decision that you need to make yourself. And my story shows that breakthrough doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with you making that one decision. And I want my readers to understand that well, and that delay is not denial, it's development. And when we're in those silent seasons, it's not for punishment. We're being prepared during those seasons. And I want women to know that you are not behind, you're being built. Especially in those silent seasons, you're being built, and God is filling you up with the things that He wants you to do so that you can impart those things into other people. Because whatever we have gone through is not for us. It's going to help that one woman to know that if she made it, I can make it too. And so courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience despite it. And focus is not intensity. It is alignment with the assignment that you have been given by God. And if a woman finishes my chapter and chooses one faithful action, sending an email or forgiving an offense, somebody did something to them and they forgive them, launch an idea that they've been sitting on for years, speak up in the room that you're in, stop being afraid, then the story that I'm telling will have done the work that I wanted it to do. Because she already has greatness. All of you, all of us, we have greatness inside of us that someone is waiting on. So I'm here to tell you, just rise and just allow God to be God in your life and not be afraid to make the decisions that you need to make, because you're not in this alone. We are here as women to build each other up and not to tear each other down, and to just stay focused on the prize that's waiting on you on the other side.
Well, that was a word in itself. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Butler. Thank you, Dr. Val and Cherie, for sharing your words. And we want our listeners to know that this is not the end of our work. So it's just launch of words that we're bringing in, hoping to inspire the women. But before we go into our next group, I want to acknowledge something really powerful. The women of I Am Her represent more than just one city, coming from different regions and even international. From Boston to Virginia, Memphis to New York. And of course, Texas is represented from Dallas to San Antonio, and of course, my hometown, Houston. So just know that purpose has no zip code, and we're extending boundaries. Thank all for time and commitment that you guys have put into this project to make this so purposeful. And so when women, across regions rise together, they say, I am her, because it's more than the book, it's a movement. And so with that, we're going to move to our next group of authors who I'm excited to introduce. So coming to the stage now, we have Sindele,
Yes.
Dr. Anita Lewis, Bonalicia Deshae Davidson and Tamika Robinson. So thank you guys. Welcome to stage and super excited to have you here. I'm going to start off with first introducing Cindele. And Cindele, she is a global minded leader, a strategist committed to shaping more than just technical and inclusive future. Her work really centers on inclusive leadership and human centered transformation. And so, with that, Cindele, can you share with us why was contributing to the I Am Her project important to you, especially at this point in your journey?
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Meg, for this initiative and all these amazing, phenomenal women that are in this space. Um, my chapter in this book, it says, guided by the wisdom of our mothers. It is a tribute, it is a celebration, and it is a remembrance of my grandmother, my mother, and all the amazing women who had to endure so much for my growth. And for that, it has been I've walked in boardrooms, I've walked in spaces wherein they were not designed for a person of my color and let alone my gender. And I had to unapologetically own that space and also not need a permission to be myself. So my chapter is about um, owning your identity and redefining your leadership as a woman and building on the resilience of our mothers who had to endure so much. And their resilience is in our DNA. And it was in that spirit that I am because of them, my ancestors who've gone before me. And I am because I owe it to myself to pay it forward for our generation going forward. So it's more about how redefining our personal identity in this 21st century, and also understanding that as an individual, I am not existing just as an individual, but I'm part of this collective. This I am here is exactly that, a collective of inheritance, a collective of leadership, a collective of shared identity. And we're saying we are shaped by relationships. Leadership is not in isolation, but it is shaped by relationships. We're shaped by relationships of our mothers, of our ancestors, of our communities, and even those who are not yet born. So I am here for me. It was a space of elevating and acknowledging that continuity of our ancestors. And we're saying, how are we honoring those who came before us? How are we taking their lineage, their journey, and their sacrifices for us to be in this privileged position? And how are we going to be accountable also for those who are going to come after us, that legacy part? So this was a space where we're living in a world that glorifies a lot of individual success. So the book and my contribution was a constant reminder that relationship is not just an individual. We have to be part of the community. We have to embrace humanity, compassion, and oneness. And when you embrace that, then you know that as a leader, it should not your success should not come at the expense of others. So this was the question now became not just who I am in this community, but who am I becoming for those who have come before me, and also what legacy am I leaving for those who are coming after me. So this was a really at that point saying I needed to leave something. How am I going to these spaces and owning it? And also how not to shrink as a person and rise up, because our ancestors, they really, really had to pay it forward for us. How we building a collective community with values of oneness and become stewards of wisdom and knowledge and an act of remembrance. So this was where I have been. And building that legacy, I'm ensuring that our daughters inherit not only opportunity, but they are grounded in the sense of their value systems, not only in ambition, but also they know who they are. Because when you know who you are, it doesn't matter which platform you find yourself in or the challenge that you face, you'll always remain grounded and you're able to shape that future of your identity, but also leave something for the future for those who are to come after us.
I love that. And how do you hope your chapter will inspire readers? Already just inspired just from us, connecting back to our roots and thinking about those before us. But how do you hope your
I'm hoping that many of the women that will be reading this book are women who are liberated and open-minded, who are leaders and phenomenal people in their own rights. I'm hoping that through this book they can read that may our leadership be human-centered. May our interaction with one another be more humane and build a humane a world. And may you honor the wisdom of those who have come before us. And even when you are in moments of doubt and also be challenging situations, may that spirit of resilience and know that you are worthy as an individual and you don't need permission to belong. And may you carry that spirit of humility, of mindness and oneness like an inheritance. We live, and may this book be a book of remembrance, that as you read it, and live these values, live this courage, and live a life of clarity and compassion as you go forward. Be rooted in who you are, your identity, and also leave a future, a generational legacy, that life and relationships are the most important currency than just climbing the ladder. Bring other people along with you, build a community. You are that legacy, and the future is watching. So it is upon all of us to make a difference.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. So we're going to move
Dr.
on to Dr. Anita. Dr. Anita is an award-winning author and storyteller, passionate about culture, curiosity, and connection. She inspires if you can first give us that information before you go into define, because I want to make sure that those who are here are able to hear history in making that we're all looking forward to.
Okay, I missed part of what you said, but I think you're asking me to tell you that this time next week, I will be attempting a Guinness World Record for the world's longest history lesson. So I will be attempting to teach for 2 straight days on African and African American history in observance of Black History Month, and also in constant protest of the marginalization and the albeit erasure of our contributions to this country, to the nations, to the world. So it's my way of saying, look and see the brilliance that we are. Don't underestimate or misunderstand that we don't just exist, we excel. So I'm looking forward to taking the stage next week and showing what and who we are, and giving pride to everything that our ancestors have done to put us where we are today. So thank you for allowing me to say that.
Of course. Thank you for sharing that. And going back to I am her. So can you
Yes.
define or share a define in your life motivated story you contribute to?
Yes, of course. For me, that would be my family's quote unquote fall from grace, when, for financial and family reasons, we lost our home and were forced to move to the projects. And that could have been a setback, but it turned out to be a setup for success, because instead of looking, instead of seeing it as a negative, the neighborhood, the community embraced and encouraged. And what could have, like I said, what could have been a setback turned out to be a setup for success. So without giving anything away in what I put in my chapter, just know that everything that happens is not always what it seems. And if we look for the light in our situation, we can find it.
I love that. And what is one key takeaway from your chapter that you hope readers will carry into their own lives?
Something similar to what Sindele was just saying about the past. Um, what I want the ladies who read my chapter and the book in general is to understand that your past does not define you, it prepares you.
Yes.
And if you look for the lessons in the things that are occurring, that you can find what you need to propel you into the future.
Mm.
So, one of the things that I always say is employ the past, be it your past, be it the history of your neighborhood, your family, and so forth, but employ those past lessons
Mm.
and use those to educate the current situation, be it you, your children, or whatever. Me being an educator, I employ the past to educate the present so that they can be empowered and enhance the future. So, if that's one thing I want people to come from when they read it, understand that my past did not define me. It prepared me so that I could build my present and move into a much better future. So, like I said, your past does not define you. Use it to prepare you for an even better future. So that's what I would like for them to take away from my chapter.
There's all times unstable is unstable now, but we're gonna still push through, and so hopefully you guys can still hear me well. But Valencia, she is an author, speaker, who empowers others to overcome fear, walk bold into purpose. And so, if you can start with sharing, how has your journey, courage, resilience, or focus influenced your chapter in I Am Her?
So my chapter is completely about my experience and seeing face to face. You hear people talk all the time, and if you've been around any elders, you hear them tell you about how there are dreams buried in the cemetery, right? People die with their dreams inside of them. They don't see them through. And so I got to see that firsthand with my mother. I buried my mother in 2021. And as I watched everything happening and looked at my mom laying there lifeless, I thought about all the conversations we had recently had about all the things she was saying she was going to do. One of the biggest things was start her catering company. And I will never forget the last conversation we had where she talked about she was going to do it, and she was just waiting. She was waiting until this or until that. And so for me, I have been on a journey since that day for myself and for every woman that I come into contact with, to encourage them to understand that if you wait until may never come. And so that is how my personal experience has impacted how I move forward in everything. Everything I do now is not about, well, I'm not ready, or I don't look this, or I don't feel this, or I don't have this. It's always about, this is the moment that I have, and so I have to seize this moment. And so that's how my experience has impacted how I move every day now. It's totally changed my whole viewpoint on life, actually.
I love that. I love that. So, what practical advice or steps can readers take from your story to lead with confidence and that purpose?
I absolutely love this question because I feel like sometimes we are motivated, but we walk away and we feel like, oh yes, I can do it. But what do I do now? I'm motivated, but what practical things, or what can I implement? And so for me, I tell my daughter, and I tell every young woman that I come into contact with, that your brain believes whatever you tell it. And so I believe that the first thing that we have to do is begin to talk different to ourselves. And so I would say today, you can write down, what is it that you're putting off? What are you postponing? What are you waiting until to do? And then write down why. Why are you waiting? Because is it weight? Is it money? Is it fear? Whatever it is, and begin to reframe your thoughts. And in these days, good old Chat GPT, you don't even have to call nobody anymore. Put it in chat. Chat, I'm not doing this because, help me reframe my mindset. Give me 10 affirmations that I can talk to myself, as can say to myself every day, and begin to do those things and begin to move even in an imperfect state. It's never going to be perfect. You're never actually ready, right? You do it. You just heard Dr. Mack talk about that we are moving forward, even with technical difficulties. If we said we got to wait until everything's working perfectly before we go live, we wouldn't go live. So you have to move forward no matter what. So that would be my advice, what you can do right now today.
And that's true. I think a lot of times, sorry, I'm feeling. I know we have time and we have our next, but I love that sometimes we try to be so, like right now, things may not work well right now. You know, who knows what's going on all of a sudden, but I love that it does not have to be perfect, and waiting for that perfect moment, you'll still be waiting for your until. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to Tanika. Tanika is a strategist and non. your contribution. I'm gonna re-ask that again. What personal experiences shape your contribution to I Am Her and your approach to leadership or life pivots?
Well, first, I want to start by saying and echoing all of the panelists here. Thank you so much for starting this initiative so that we can have this platform to share personal and professional happenings that have inspired us wanting to contribute to this and talk about alignment. Everything that Dr. Davidson said is what inspired the chapter that I contributed. And really, it was a reckoning that happened in the workplace. And, for many of us as professional women in education, we're often confronted with scenarios and things that question the legitimacy of why we're in spaces. And for me, it was early on in my leadership journey where, I worked so hard to achieve this status working in the school district, and everything and everyone around me seemed to be counteracting where I was, undermining things that I was putting in place, sabotaging, initiatives that I was trying to put forward. And it just made me reflect inward, am I really qualified? Am I really worthy of, what I had worked so hard to achieve? And really, that was the pivotal moment for me, in those quiet moments where it's like, it's not the external, the work had to be done inside. And, it was negotiating that legitimacy that really had me stop and say, why am I shrinking to fit the mold or to fit the image of what others have, which is usually, if not always, based on some fragmented piece of who they think we are. And, it was where I then started to really stand firm in who I was, not just as a woman in education space, but just as a woman, as a leader, and not asking for permission. And I think that seems to be the overarching theme here so far in this conversation, is that you don't have to wait for anyone to legitimize your presence, your purpose. And, what is it that you are leaving, to follow what our sister said earlier in terms of leaving legacy behind, and making sure that the tough imprints that we make in being the first is not in vain, because it helps in the path of those who are coming there behind us. So for anyone who is going to read the chapter, really taking that piece that, that humility is not from the hiding, is about just acknowledging that, where I am and where I'm supposed to be is divinely ordained and purposed. And, leadership, to kind of ground it back into that piece, is not waiting to be invited. When you recognize all of what God has invested in you, it doesn't need that permission. And that's decided long before you even step into a room. So to kind of tie it back into, the theme of my chapter, I didn't have to wait for the permission. I just claimed it. And in that claiming, it allowed other things to develop and kind of manifest in all the good that has kind of brought me to where I am.
And how do you hope your story will empower readers to act boldly, fear or uncertainty?
Well, I would say that, fear is not the stop sign. And I think for many of us, that's where we kind of stop dead in our tracks. There are things that kind of make us second guess who we are, where we are, even in those seasons where things don't seem to be going our way. It's that pause where we really have to kind of do that inner reflection and, lean in on God's voice. A lot of what we're all echoing here is that, it's not in vain. And, really for a woman to read and say, let me stop doing that self-editing that kind of allows us to, or limits us in losing momentum in trying to build and kind of stretch us to where we are. And really that stretching is necessary, and when you think about something being stretched, there's parts that have to be broken. And, it's about also reframing fearlessness. It's not always the grandiose moment. It's sometimes doing it when you're unsure, doing it when your voice shakes. For a lot of women in this season, applying when you don't have all the checks marked off on the box. Do it anyway. So stop shrinking. Speak up and understand that the pivots that happen in life, it's sometimes those necessary off courses where, God has to prune something out of you to prepare you for the next step. And those moments are sometimes more catalytic than the accomplishments or the grand prize that we're striving for. And, to kind of bring it back into context of like the professional space, you can't widen the table unless you're first at it.
Yes.
And that's something that my mentor had to remind me. And hopefully in the book, that's a nugget that a woman can take away and really take to heart. You can't widen tables. You can't, provide that access or opportunity or leave legacy unless you're willing to sacrifice some part of yourself in the learning process and do it on your own.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. You guys have been so inspiring. And as you kind of see that we've been having this, those who are tuning in and just sharing their feedback, and just we really just hoping that I love this speaking to my soul. Yes, they're speaking to my soul as I'm sitting here asking the questions and just trying to get through all the technical difficulties in the moment, and like just reaffirming myself in this moment. So surrounded by a group of women who are inspiring, and I would say any woman, just to be able to support each other and the different things. And so thank you all for sharing your stories. Again, for those who are tuning in, we have more to share. This is just the beginning of this launch. And I'm looking forward to what's to come. I'm going to move on to our next group, which is our last group of authors. Moving on, we're going to bring up now Nicole Golden, Miss Lakita Prunty, and Dr. Rachel Allen. All right. So Nicole is affectionately known as Miss Golden, is a survivor of vision, whose life reflects really faith and transformation. She inspires women to live boldly in grace, purpose, power, and just by being able to connect with her. I love that she puts that into have a good morning, and she really into that. So, for being a part of this project, and for you, I would like to ask, what has been the biggest decision in your life that you included her?
First and foremost, before I jump into the question, just again, like the other lady said, we thank you for this space. Definitely appreciate it. I'm just sitting here like trying to hold back the tears as I'm crying, because it's like I'm reliving my life all over again in these bits and pieces, just as when writing this chapter. But it's very empowering. I feel like I'm already at the summit, just being here at the launch. So thank you so much for this space. But first and foremost, I would truly have to say, it has been not quitting, not giving up, regardless of what is happening and what's going on around me. Just kind of living through it and just knowing that and believing that greater is coming on the other side. And I know it sounds cliche to say it when things are good and you're finding you're in a great space, but that kind of faith comes from kind of like just talking yourself through things, having the courage to continue to move forward and not giving up. And honestly, I think it was easier for me when I was before being a mom, right? But once motherhood hit, it was totally different for me. I wanted to give up, but I couldn't even let the words come out my mouth. I couldn't even act as though I wanted to give up. It was like I was holding it in and trying to hold it all together for the simple fact that I never wanted my daughter to see me like that. But there came times where I couldn't hold it back. She witnessed it. The fact that my daughter could pray for me, pray with me, that gave me the strength to not quit. Nights where I'm going to school, where my daughter is with me while I'm pursuing a second master's degree, and she's only 2 years old, not quitting, letting her see me do those things. That I would have to say was the most courageous part. And you'll see more about, read more about that in the chapter. But definitely not giving up, because I knew that I had those golden eyes watching me.
I love golden, yes. And I hope your chapter will help readers break through fear and step into their power.
For me, I would truly say it's just the simple fact of understanding that they are becoming. They're not broken. A lot of times when we face fear, we just immediately think that, this is the end, or we just give up immediately. But that use the fear to allow you to grow. And I hope that women are able to walk away with that after reading my chapter, just understanding that regardless of what things look like, everything that they're going through, everything that is happening within them, they're not broken. Remove that fear, move forward, because they are golden. They have what it is that they need already to go forward. And sometimes it's just us holding ourselves back. But you're not broken, you're becoming. Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much. And next we have a passionate advocate for families, students, and community empowerment. Her work centers on building confidence and helping in their fullest potential. And so, Lakita, can you share with us why was it important to contribute your story to I Am Her?
First
I
of
think we
all,
got you on.
I want to say I feel so empowered. My spirit feels so full. Like I feel so joyful right now just to hear everyone's story. It was important for me to um, take part in this book because I want to I want to help to transform and build other women up. I've always had a passion for helping people. And sometimes when you're in certain spaces, you don't feel like you are her. People make you feel like you are not her. But I've had to realize that through this journey, especially over these last 2 or 3 years, that I am her. Each morning, I choose to get up and stay focused and keep moving forward. That's what makes me her. And I want other women to know that they are her, no matter who you are, what your job title is. That doesn't make you. Just you moving forward towards your goal. That is what makes you her.
And there's one lesson that leaders will apply, lead with clarity and purpose.
So I feel like there's no matter what obstacles may arise or what obstacles are in your way, don't let that deter you from your purpose. Use your voice to uplift other women. Just be transformational, not transactional. Use your voice to amplify what you know is right, and don't let anyone shrink who you are or take away what you know is right within you. And just stay focused and fearless and just be you because you are her.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And to our next author, Dr. Rachel, she is an architect and executive leadership strategist committed to building leaders who shape legacy. And through her work, she challenges leaders to move beyond titles and build what lasts. And so, Dr. Rachel, how does your journey of strength and focus shape the contribution of I Am Her?
Wow. So my journey has been of strength and focus, and it's not about climbing. My chapter is about becoming. So for nearly 3 decades, I led in spaces that required courage, clarity, and conviction. I've navigated classrooms all the way to boardrooms through executive roles, knowing that the weight of all of my decisions impacted thousands. So from the outside, it looks like ascension, but internally it was formation. So I realized that every season refined me, not just as a leader, but as a woman. And from that, I had to learn the difference between recognition and fulfillment. So in this season and in this chapter, I talk about those pivotal shifts that I call my rewirement era. So in this era, this moment of strength, of stopping and beginning to align what matters to me, Is capturing that tension that holds between what my titles were versus what my purpose is. It honors the courage that it took for me to surrender to what I thought was successful in order to protect and fully step into what was sacred to me. So my focus shaped my contribution because it forced me to ask myself these deeper questions of who am I without a title? What will remain when the applauses fade? And then what am I building that will outlive my roles? So in my chapter, I share that fierce doesn't always roar. Sometimes it releases. Fearless doesn't always conquer. Sometimes it surrenders. And that being focused is not about doing more. It's about choosing what matters most.
I love that. And what message or insight from your chapter do you hope will leave a lasting impact on readers?
So long after you have finished the last page of the chapter, I hope that you recognize that title gives you recognition, but purpose gives you peace. So I know us in the room, and many people around the world, many women, we're all accomplished, capable of carrying what looks like what would be impressive on paper. But achievement without alignment is exhausting. It's exhausting to the soul. It's exhausting in so many ways. So my chapter invites you to pause and ask yourself, am I pursuing what looks successful or what feels obedient to what I'm becoming? I want you to understand that surrender is not weakness. It is strategic. Rewirement is not quitting. It's recalibrating and walking away from what we know is to be familiar in order to work towards what's purposeful and finding that fierce courage and that fearless clarity on what you are becoming and who you want to become and aligning your behaviors to so. So if my words leave any lasting imprint in my chapter, I hope that it's a reminder that becoming her is not about perfection. It's all about evolution. It's about choosing growth over comfort, impact over image, and legacy over applause. So the most powerful version of her that you would want to align to is one that is spiritually grounded, intellectually disciplined, and unapologetically focused on building what will outlive her.
I love that. I love that. So thank you all for sharing and connecting. And I know those who are watching, we see their comments coming through, and they're pouring in. And so it's definitely inspiring just to be in this space with you. So I can't wait till we get to the summit. But before we go on to our next things, I definitely want to recognize one of our contributing authors who was not able to join us today, Lanisa Ross. I want to acknowledge, that her voice matters. Her story reflects growth, creativity, and courage. And though she is not here with us today, her contribution to I Am Her is powerful and necessary. So I definitely want to show her some love on here in her sense of joining us today. And so thank you so much for being a part of the I Am Her movement. Now, we definitely want to encourage you all to support your favorite authors. And with that, we encourage you to purchase your copies from them directly, connect when to support her, invest in her, and it becomes a tangible keepsake for you because you get all of the stories and all of the inspiration that is there. So be sure to connect your authors that you copy, so they'll send you a signed copy of their work, and so that you can have that in your keepsake. But one thing that we definitely want to do before we go, we definitely want to share. I've said that this is just only the beginning, because we're extending this message, this moment, to be more than just about the book. This is about a lot of things that are happening. So if you are able to join us live in person, hosting the I Am Her Summit, and of course these powerful on Patrick, Marcy Strahan, we expand not just about messaging to empower others, be a part of this work, be a part of this space, to support and empower each other as we are all her. And so we definitely want you guys to go to IamHerSummit.com to register. The event is taking place March 14th in Houston, Texas. And so we hope to see you there. I'm going to just bring the ladies back up as we get ready to wrap up and close out. And so I just want to just thank everyone for joining us here today. Just adding some people back to the stage here. And so I just want to share that, at Mac Media and Publishing, we're always looking for the next voice to amplify. If you've been sitting on a story that you think that deserves to be in print, connect with us, visit macmediapublishing.com, because your voice might be the next one. But before we log off, I want us all to say this together. I am her.
I
am
am her.
Thank you so much. And that's for you. If you're watching, I want you to stop and pause for a moment and share that you are her, and tell yourself that I am her. Not the future version, not the polished version. Definitely, it doesn't be present, powerful, or I'm sorry, it needs to be the present, the powerful, and the becoming version. So it doesn't have to be the future you, the polished you. It is you, who you are today. And so thank you for joining us. We're going to just definitely share the last messages and comments that we had coming across the stage. And so thank you all for, I'm going to put them up here, joining us and spend your afternoon with us. And so we have Shalane saying, I hope I get to meet all of you at the summit. Yes, she is coming on down to Houston, Texas. Miss Golden is always golden, is always sharing. He is sharing. Yes, you are her. Thank you so much. We have Shalane also said, coming back up here, she can't wait. Here she is. She can't wait to read the powerful messages. And so thank you so much for sharing. And thank you guys for tuning in and joining us on the I Am Her. Beth Shanae, she says, thank you for sharing. And her pause up there. She said, thank you, ladies. Such an inspiration. And then we have, thank you. Then thank you to giving praise to Lanisa. Thank you so much, you all, for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time. We can't wait to connect with you, and hopefully we'll see you in Houston. Don't forget to connect with your author to connect with them so you can get your copy of I Am Her. And then we're going to extend this powerful experience into the I Am Her Summit. So thank you for joining us. We hope you have a blessed day.